Cease with the apartheid, man. Stop fucking struggling with the fucking past. Let's get on with it.
It's not easy to forget the past. The past is with you for the rest of your life. The past determines your future. You cannot forget your past. If you want to, you can. But I cannot forget my past because my past determines my present situation and my future. If I forget the past, I lose sight of what is ahead of me. The past created me. The past created this country. So it's there. We can't wish it away. Can we?
Politics and sport in South Africa have proved to be inextricably linked time and time again. Apartheid was invented as a means to cement the Afrikaners' control over the economic and social systems of our country. This has impacted South African sports in a big way. For many years, the Springboks were considered synonymous with apartheid. Black South Africans considered rugby a white man's game, the sport of the apartheid police. It was only after Nelson Mandela wore the number 6 Springbok rugby jersey at the 1995 Rugby World Cup that black South Africans began warming to the sport. Each South African mainstream rugby side is being forced to have a minimum of 7 players of color on every match day. This is in line with the 2019 transformation plan. This selection criterion forms part of a plan to raise black representation from 2 to 7 by 2019. The All Blacks team from Potsdam shared their passionate views on the issue.
I am Ubakolise Komfa. I come from East London, yes, but I was born in Alice. I started playing rugby, I was 7. Back in Hudson, when I started really loving the sport. I loved it because of the thrill, the adrenaline pump, more so because I love running, dodging and pacing up. Rugby means a lot to me. I played with passion, I played with love, because every time I'm on the field, I just feel free. Kumnandi bapha with amajitako, the gents, your teammates, pushing each other forward, doing what you can to achieve victory. Now, as someone who plays rugby and someone who's also a scholar, you also have aspirations. You want to reach that professional level, as Ukata just said. But you also find difficulty because sometimes you don't get the necessary resources that you need. For example, supplements or weights or training programs or training manuals that you need, because we are disadvantaged sometimes as black people, though we have the skill. Sometimes the skill is there, the passion is there, and the heart. It's just the resources.
I'm Ludo Czech. I was born in King Williamstown. There is a Shashen location. I grew up in PE in Port Elizabeth. I started rugby when I was doing grade 6. I think I was 11 years old in Isaac Boy. Then I went to Utembelisha High School, where I was a captain for 2 years in first team. And then I passed my grade 12 there in 2011. I came to Sisulu University. Now I'm playing for Sisulu University. I'm playing number 13. And when it comes to sevens, I'm the first receiver and the sweeper. And I'm doing my final year this year. This is my final year.
Meet you guys. But by the way, my name is Danny Benjamin from Himasdorp. I'm just born a rugby player. And about the Tempe League, we beat them twice. So I started playing rugby when I was 7 years old. I'm just born with the sport. Because I play rugby because I say the things that I want to say in life. I just feel comfortable playing rugby. I can play any position when it comes to rugby, any position. Because I don't mind playing, put my body for the next person. It is not about me, it's about a team. What we as a team can brought forward.
When it comes to Walter Sisulu University, in here in Walter Sisulu, the team is selected on merit, and we feel at home here because each and every Saturday we are sharing something that we like, and I think most of players in here in Walter Sisulu are more talented and skillful. And the only thing that we are lacking on is resource. When it comes to resources, we are lacking in terms of resources because we don't have a gymnasium. We have a small gymnasium where we are sharing with all sport, with the other coaches.
I just dwell on that, but I agree with you. I never go to Sisulu. Everything is just nice.
Yeah.
You play rugby, being with your teammates, being with the coaching staff, we are all a family.
Yeah, we're all family.
So yeah, I've been playing rugby for Sisulu for now 5 years.
5 years.
And I enjoy playing here. And now this year I'm doing my final year. Next year, what's going to happen next year? But rugby here to Sisulu All Blacks, it is just outstanding.
Thobile Mtya was one of the first black Springboks who were discovered in the rural parts of the Eastern Cape. He shares with us his journey from his early beginnings in Kweleja to his career as a Springbok rugby player.
Igama lam ndinguThobile Mtya, ndizalelwe eKweleja, ndihlala khona nangoku. Irugby ndadibana nayo kuMdushane, ndaqala udlala irugby ngo-1977, ndidlala fly half. Ndisukile ke apho ndisesikolweni ndidlala fly half, ndawufunda e-high school, eJongolanga High School. Imentor yam eJongolanga High School yaba nguprincipal wam osengekhoyo, uprincipal uNgquba, uPeace Ngquba. Wandibona into yokuba andiseyiyo umuntu odlala backline, ndingumntu odlala front line. Yaba ngumlo ke lowo elalini kuba I was strong center ngelo xesha. Xa ucaba ndiyasuswa ke ngokusenta unisaflank, kodwa wathi ifuture yam ikwiflank. Xa ndipasileyo esikolweni ndize eMonti ndawudlala flank, eneneni ndadlala flank ke esikolweni, kanti undibeke kwindawo ebanzi kwelo xesha. That time ke sasidlala sisisikolo i-high schools under isisky, when sidlala umdantsane udlala neKweleja Moy Plus Jolom kwenza combine, and then the military the Transkeians the Pedi kwenza the best team. Kulapho ke ndabona khona si-selectors the team ekuthiwa iSwallows ngo-1982. From that year 1982 I joined iSwallows eyazalwa ngo-1911. He was established in 1911. I was so proud because I was the first player to play even iSwallows from the rural areas, because Swallows was one of the great team yake yakhona apha eMonti, ibingadlala nangubani. But fortunate for me, ndabeka ndidlala iSwallows, ndiyayibulela ke loo nto, ndadlala loo first team eSwallows. From kwiSwallows ndikhumbula the first match when I played Swallows 1983 against the Black Lion in King, when the selectors of Swallows put me on the first team, and one of my friends, they are playing second team, but they said this black boy must play first team. And then this position of Swallows was the position of the great player Patsa Makeshane. I was so afraid even ukumbona, because Patsa Makeshane, I was hear about him on the radio kumhlobo wenene ku Given Cape. Ngelo xesha ke kwakunzima nomamela iradio because of the apartheid. Sasimamela ndambona kuPatsa, ndaqomba ndiyavuya ukuba ndize kule ndawo yakhe. In short, uPatsa wathi ngona start in the funeral, and then they placed me kule ndawo yakhe. I scored 2 tries. When Patsa Makeshane arrived to the field, i-selectors eSwallows zazadibana, or Dr. Chek, or Dr. Msauli, or Kebs Mabi, my coach, and they said, no, this boy gonna go and join the Windaroos.
We visited a place known as Home of Rugby in the Eastern Cape, Border Rugby.
I'm originally from Pietermaritzburg in KwaZulu-Natal, where I went to high school at Pietermaritzburg College. After that, played a bit of club rugby in Pietermaritzburg, and then in 2011, end of 2011, I was contacted by the former CEO at Border, who asked me to come up for a trial. And by the beginning of 2012, I was in the Border Bulldog setup, and I've been here ever since.
I come from Dell College, started playing rugby from the age of 7. Then I represented Border from under 13, under 16 and under 18 Craven Week sides. I went to Dell College. After that, I went to the Sharks Academy, then the EP Kings Academy. Then I played for Forte last year in the Varsity Shield. Then I got a call up from them to come and play for Border.
As far as the quota transformation, I believe it is a good step in the right direction, especially for the Eastern Cape, where we've got many underprivileged players who now will have the chance. Obviously, it's important that they get chosen on merit, but at the same time, I feel the development is important. Having coaching clinics, informing, getting coaches educated, that is all important to lead up to the transformation process.
I think it's good and bad at the same time. I think players sometimes should be picked according to merit, not according to their color and stuff like that. But in some cases, some black players don't get enough opportunities. So I think that's a good idea.
Rugby in the border area gained a lot of prominence through the involvement of the African people. And now when I'm talking about the African people, I'm talking about the African people of indigenous African descent. That includes what you call today black people in black consciousness's terminology. That includes Africans, the so-called coloreds as well, playing rugby like it has never been played before. Let me first say, with the African people came the ability to think when playing rugby. Came the issues, the notions of moves. What move am I going to move? We are going to make? How are we going to penetrate the opposition? The question of moves, take holding a ball and moving it around your body like this, and say, and your opponent would come to you and think that you've passed the ball in this direction, but you've just brought it again. So, thinking, it was not what I'm trying to say. It was not. It's all brawn. There's also brains in playing rugby. It's not all about muscles. This is what we've been saying, that if whites are saying to us, if rugby must be played on the basis of how hefty you are, how brawny you are, and the likes, it takes the brains out of the sport. And this was the area where the African people excelled, putting brains into the sport.
A quota by its very definition is limited, because now our unions don't want black people in the system in the first place. They've shown it. I mean, we have been allowing so-called black people into the Springbok side since 1981. And if you look at the South African Rugby magazine, the current editor is Mark Keohane, who's a former media guy for the Springboks, they've got how many issues? 216 or whatever, 218, magazines. How many black people feature on the covers of that magazine? So it's a societal system that does not want black people in the system. So So quota by its very definition is limiting. What if there's 9 black players that are good enough? Are we going to stick to the 7? What if there's 12 that is good enough? Are we going to stick to the 7? So by its very definition, it limits. It puts a limit. It already puts a cap on. What if there's only 1 guy that's good enough? Are we now going to run out and see who's selling fruit and vegetables and just put them in because they're black? The system needs a complete overhaul, and it's not just rugby, it's society. Because if you look at the demographic of people who attend these big rugby matches, and you take a photograph of any section of the stand, except the All Black section, you're going to find 3 black faces within that snapshot, because number one, our economic system hasn't changed. So you're going to find those who can, they're going to be attending the rugby matches because it's $300, $400.
Quota-wise, I don't see any problem in it, and I don't see it as a challenge for me, because I've played throughout my career, and I've made actually a career from my rugby. I've played ACS schools without quota being a factor or helping me to make it in that team. So I don't see any problem or any obstacle which other black players should make an excuse as a quota being there. So all I'm just saying is that if you're a rugby player, or let me say an African black player, you must just work hard, put in the extra yards, and you'll be lucky enough to make it through any institution.
SA Rugby is working to they've got a transformation strategy where they've targeted 2019 to be the year where they sort of reach their targets of black players playing rugby. And I think the Vodacom Cup, what it does is gives an opportunity for black players to showcase their talent. By putting 8 black players within in the 22, we bring players through the system. I think we're very fortunate being in the position where our players are there on merit. We don't have to force players into a position. We're not keeping other players out. So we're very fortunate to be in that position. And I think if we're all working towards strategic their transformation strategic plan. I think this is one of the ways to do it.
As a coach said, we're trying to get the players on merit and choose them on merit, and luckily enough, we've got those players. Different unions got the different opinions about it, but we're lucky that we've got everything right.
I think in the short term, I think I can understand the logic behind the quota system, but I don't see it as a long-term solution. I don't see it working in the long term, because unfortunately I think indirectly it's kind of simply reinforcing the belief that black players are inadequate or less than. So a player of colour that kind of gets labelled as a quota player, I don't think it does anything for that player's development or self-esteem or self-confidence, or even building respect with their fellow players. So I see it more as like a band-aid on sticking on a wound that needs a different approach.
I don't really think it's necessary at this point. There's so much talent out there that I think players should be chosen on merit and not on the colour of their skin. And I think for the player, it should be better to be chosen on merit than to doubt yourself and whether you've been chosen because of the colour of your skin or whether it's because you actually deserve to be in the team.
The quota system is a good thing only if it is implemented the right way. Because what you find out is sometimes they just put in players of colour just because they're players of colour, not of their performance, not because of their performance is of a high standard. What they must do, the players that are deserving, for example, we've got the big players like that have been in the setup for the Springboks. For example, our Siya Kolisis and all of them, they should get their chances.
I don't agree with it, because at the end of the day, the best player should play.
Yeah.
And politics, even though we do come from apartheid, and apartheid has a lot to do with what happened in South Africa today, I feel it shouldn't be implemented in our sport, because our sport, at the end of the day, we want the best players to play. And if the best players aren't playing, whether they're black, white, I mean, the Chinese people are also citizens of South Africa now. If they're the best players, they should play. It doesn't matter what color they are. I think to enforce color into sport is a pointless exercise.
Basically, I think the whole thing of bringing color into rugby and basically all aspects of the country. For me, I just think putting race into sports, it doesn't afford our players or black players a better opportunity, because then you're just getting in there just because you're black, instead of being in there because you're skilled and because you know the sport and you can play the rugby, you can play the game. Basically, I think it's a political agenda that they put into it. It's not about politics. A time where everything is about politics, we want to get black people in there. You can't force issues, you can't force transformation, and that's what basically they're doing, is that forcing transformation. It's something you can't force. You can't force a black person to be more talented than another person just because of color. It has to come with heart, it has to come with love, dedication. If someone is determined to make the team and be in the team and you're willing to put in the effort, then it should be a matter of merit, not a matter of color. That's my opinion.
If you can check out my background, most of the members are all over the place, and the stadium is so packed. This is the most powerful match that anybody has ever seen. It's actually the most interesting international rugby derby of all time.
The most amazing moment for me in that stadium, I would say, that made me cry, I think, a bit. It was when Jos van der Oosthuizen, the former Springbok player, he walked into the stadium. You know, he does have a sort of a sickness, but for him to go back to the stadium where he used to play many years back, and I used to watch him when I was a child when he used to play there, walking the stadium, making his grand walk, was quite amazing, that he had the energy and actually trying to show other people that the feel of sport still exists in our country.
The experience was awesome, Lawi, and I enjoyed it. Lokumandi.
When it came to the actual day of watching the rugby, I was excited. We always laugh when we look at the chairs. We were like on the second row. We were right behind the New Zealanders. I was like, okay, I might be wearing a Springbok jersey, but I do not mind the view from where I'm sitting.
Okay, well, I agree with the quota that there shouldn't be less than 7 black players in a team, because it's a national team, for heaven's sake. So if they're gonna talk about Rainbow Nation, there needs to be players that are gonna be there to represent other cultures or races, and there are a lot of good black players in other teams that are working so hard, but the only thing that they do, they choose white people. And then they're gonna expect the black people to support the Springboks. You see, so if it would be done like that, it would be actually great, and it would actually balance, and there wouldn't be 98% of white fans and 92% of black fans. It would actually balance. So I do agree with that. It should be done.
Yeah, well, I think basically if we're saying that we have fought for democracy and we have democracy, it's not a matter of a subject to being forced, like the morale of thinking that being the role players in actually ensuring or sustaining our democracy should be the question, that people should not be subject to force. And if we are representing a black nation, I mean, SAFA, who are the main stakeholders at SAFA? What is their consideration when it comes to these things? Forget the players, because I believe that beyond the players, they are big decision makers beyond. And I know that, as I stated before, that there are some political involvements. The looks of Fikile Mbalula being part of sport now, I think should also make a difference, that now rugby in South Africa should be inclusive of black people. But I don't believe people should be subjected to force. It's just that moral thinking of saying our national team should represent our country.
If it means there will be less propaganda about the skin and the vat, they should try it. But why is it only implemented in the box? What about the other teams like hockey, netball, tennis, and all that stuff?
For me personally, I'm against it because does this mean that black players will be selected on skin color, not on merit? This I think there's a loophole here. That black players will be identified as quota players. People will say, scam, quota player le, yabo. So I think lendo if niki qale ku development, yabo. Assist black privileged schools, black schools who don't have all the privileges, the fields and stuff. Assist them and see bars throughout the years.
If it is said that the Springboks, we must put a quota system, let's say 5 to 7 black guys with 8 or so in one team. Maybe let me bring the negative. What if we don't have a black person who is able to be included in that team? Must we bring people to play? Or the vice versa. What if we have more than that 7 that is quoted? Must we eliminate others who qualify to be in that team? Remember, the team here must be a national team. And if we think of the national team, we are talking in terms of the nation, not the color.
The thing is, they don't go back to the township and develop the township sporting fields, township life, the economy of people. They lose sight of. The white sports bodies have one thing in mind, to play international sport, to be recognized on the international stage.
Throughout the documentary, most of our interviewees were clearly disgruntled by the quota system. For the past 5 years, Coach Henneke Meyer has brought back old white players from retirement, whilst the likes of Siya Kolisi, Skara Ntubeni have been forced to play substitute to these players. Others argue that South Africa is not ready for transformation. South Africa is just not ready for players of color.